what made you decide this year to run for state auditor?
Well, I've been running for over a year, actually. I started a year ago in March. After serving in both local and state government, I'm a kind of person that said I would never get into politics. I thought it was a dirty business and it could be very mean. And I was asked to run, is basically how I got into it. And it was my concern over public education and the funding and everything. I'd been a public school teacher. I was a mom. Our son was going to school. And anyway, I started on school board and I saw the mess with the funding and how funding goes up and down and schools were having to go out for levy referendums. Long and the short of it, I ended up being asked to run for the House. And again, it was my deep concern over state budgeting, finances, and really that as a state we need to do more long-term financial planning. Now, the state auditor's position, I've had some people say to me, I don't know if this is a compliment or not, they think I was born to be the state auditor. Now, as a little girl, I never woke up one day and said, I want to be the state auditor of Minnesota someday. It would be an odd thing, and I think I'd be a total geek. But anyway, the job is a nonpartisan job, and you focus on good, prudent fiscal management in local government. That's my passion, is good, prudent fiscal management and long-term financial planning. So my job as auditor is to be there to work with local government to help strengthen their communities and help them deal with future challenges. So you make sure that their past spending, that they've actually not pocketed the money, and you help them to avoid wasting mistakes.
You're reviewing, in other words, their spending practices.
Yes.
And
you look for
making
compliance.
suggestions for the future?
You look for compliance. My piece is I don't want to just look at the past, I also want to focus on the future because we have great challenges facing us as communities and as a state. Budgets will always be tight, and healthcare costs are driving bottom line. So my deal is that I also want to not just focus on past spending and compliance, I also want to make sure our office works towards the future and strengthening communities. What I will do that's very different than that currently is happening is I'm actually going to be an advocate at the state and federal level for communities, Eagan, Burnsville, all over the state, for good fiscal policy that helps them to be successful and stronger rather than weakening them and advocating for things that drive up property taxes.
Okay, now you have a slogan, who's watching the watchdog?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, I've been going through both state numbers and some local government reports coming out of the auditor's office. There was a Department of Education had a revenue report on education spending, and I had gone through that and actually found some errors in that, a $12 million error in the revenue side, which I think is not good. They changed it right away. They fixed it and they corrected it after drawing attention to it. I was going through
error in terms of addition, in terms of
yeah,
a computer glitch?
Well, no, it was a sloppy formula error.
Oh.
There were some districts that weren't included in the bottom line totals. My great concern is that those bottom line totals are used by the legislature to do planning. We need to make sure that the numbers coming out of the state and for state government and also for local government, that there's integrity in those numbers so the people that need them can plan accordingly. I also was going through an annual county finance report from the state auditor's office and found multiple errors throughout the report, some of them being just very sloppy. There was a formula that was not correct when they were determining percent change of unreserved fund balances. Why are unreserved fund balances important? Well, that was really an issue the current auditor drew a lot of attention to in 2003 when advocating for greater cuts to our communities at the state level that really drove property taxes up. This race comes down to property taxes and competence. We need someone in that office to make sure there's quality control.
Yeah, I see that. This race is about property taxes and competence as one of your campaign slogans. So are you saying that it's the state auditor and things that she proposed that have caused property taxes to go up as they have escalated here in this community of Eagan, and I know Burnsville as well as I'm sure your own?
Exactly. Yeah, they've been going up around the state, and some communities have experienced double-digit increases. This is a very regressive tax. So what does the auditor's office have to do with that? Well, when you're advocating for greater cuts to our communities and saying that libraries, parks, and transit are non-essential services, that's going to have a definite impact. And there's a direct correlation with cuts to this money the state gives to our communities and property taxes increasing. They're proportional.
Would that be LGA, local government assistance?
Yes, local government aid.
And the auditor is the one who can be in the forefront of making the suggestions about that?
She did. And what I'm going to do as state auditor is when things come along, and let's say we run into a bump in our budget, our finances, or we run into a deficit as we did as a state, and I was in the legislature when that happened, we have to be very careful about the policies we put forth because most families in Minnesota cannot afford the ramp up that we're on in property taxes. It's regressive. It is not based on your ability to pay. What's interesting about the history of property taxes is it used to be how much land you had and how many crops you could grow, and that was what the tax was based on. We live in a very different society today. We still have many farming communities, but Egan doesn't have a lot of farms left, I don't think, and so...
Very few.
Right? It used to be. And so the nature has changed, and when we implement policies at the state level, you know, we've heard this no new taxes mantra, but what it's really turned out to be is no new state taxes. We're paying plenty of new taxes. It's just in the form of property taxes, fees at all levels of government, and tuition for our kids. You know, I was just talking to somebody a little bit ago in this community who was telling me about how their child is going to one of Minnesota's higher education institutions, and they think that their debt, when they're done, will be over $80,000. What I want to say, not to interrupt, but I want to say to that is this what we want to do as a state? Because we've always believed in investing in our intellectual capital. And when that young woman goes out into work, it's very typically difficult for those young people to get health care. So now what do we set them up? Are we setting them up for a successful future? And that's the question we need to ask ourselves as a state.